So I'm just doing a few finishing touches to the little floret that I drew yesterday when we were doing this study of the lavender. And I'm just adding a little bit of dark, I think this is blue violet, it says on the stick. And just to give it a little bit more depth in the center there, just going around a little bit. Maybe I might add a touch of water to soften that up a bit. And obviously when you add water to watercolor pencils, it activates the color somehow and makes it stronger. So that's quite nice. Now this is going to be a relaxing doodle today, based on the ideas that we came up with yesterday about lavender and how it's constructed with its little groups of flowers going round in circles around the stem. I've been looking at other paintings on Pinterest this morning, and a lot of people are very, very loose with what they do, and that's fine. It's a nice lilac kind of impression, but I want to come somewhere between super loose and botanical, somewhere in between those two things. So I'm just adding some darker lilac. Now this is all dry, it sort of kind of wants a little bit more depth to it. I don't know if any of you have heard of the thing called cottage core, which is the latest really big aesthetic movement going on out there at the moment. It's been very popular for a decade or so, and what with the pandemic and everything, and so many people staying indoors and trying to recreate the fantasy of self-sufficiency and doing things naturally and all that. It's become quite a thing apparently, and so this is one of the reasons why everybody is interested in flower painting and crochet and gardening and having an allotment, all of that apparently. Cottage core, did you know that? I didn't know that until about half an hour ago, and now I do. So I've got my watercolor pencils here handy. I'm going to pop that to one side. If we use watercolors today, which we will for sure, we'll use the same colors as always for something like lavender. That is to say Quinacridone Gold and Cobalt Blue. Cobalt Blue with Quinacridone makes a lovely soft green, which you can soften even further with Quinacridone Purple. And Quinacridone Purple and Cobalt are pretty ideal for the color of the flowers, the lavender flowers. So that's pretty much all the watercolor that we need. I've also got a Staedtler pigment liner here. That's a 0.1 because I want this to be fairly delicate. I've got my Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolor pencils. That's just one of them. And Charisma graphite watercolor for any drawing that I might do. I've got a round nylon brush. That's a size 5. That's quite small and we might need that. And also I've got other sizes too, which I might use. This is a 9 and I've got a 14 handy as well, which may or may not get drawn in that direction. Not quite sure yet what this painting's going to turn out to be. Talking about sketchbooks yesterday, weren't we? And I've put together a little notebook for myself. I think the paper in here is quite nice. It's nice and smooth, so it'll be nice for drawing flowers and things. And so I cut this up on my guillotine last night, and then I put it through the comb binder. And so that's a completely free way. I've reused for the backing board, because you need a nice stiff backing board. I've reused an old sketch pad back and used one of my own paintings for the front. This is a print of a painting that I cut up. So that cost me nothing and it came an awful lot quicker than Amazon. So just to warm up, Oh yes, I've written down here elderflowers. The next thing we're going to put in the sketchbook is going to be elderflowers. So I had written that down here, that we would be doing some elderflowers. And when we do the elderflowers, which are out at the moment, and they look absolutely glorious next to the clematis. We've got some purple clematis. And I didn't realise that Old Man's Beard, the wildflower, is apparently that's wild clematis. I didn't know that. Well, there's a lot of things I don't know. You probably did know that. Anyway, so that's a rough idea of what an elderflower head looks like. And I'm going to do that in gouache. I'm not going to do it on black paper. I'm going to do it on, not today either. This will be for another day. But I'm going to do it with some gouache anyway, because the colours are so light and creamy. And I think it's extremely difficult to render that on paper. Very difficult without using some kind of opaque medium. So we'll do that. Liam, we'll do that maybe tomorrow. And today, so that's roughly what an elderflower head looks like. Something to remember when you're drawing wildflowers and plants is that nothing is ever straight, and when a branch goes off in one direction, so curves like that, then the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to curve the other way to sort of balance it. It's an interesting observation, I think. And obviously all the branches that come out from a branch are always smaller, so they get finer and finer as you go along. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for the minute. I just wanted to talk about my little sketchbook that I made. If anyone's interested, I can do a video on that showing you how to do it, but you do need a little bit of equipment for this technique. On the other hand, we can do it just by punching holes with a hole punch in the end here, so I could show you how to do that. Perhaps I'll do that. Okay, right, so that's a little bit of a warm-up there, so I'm going to put that to one side too. And now I'm going to say, right, we're going to start with the lavender. There's so many different ways. Sometimes I get stuck in a way because I can't make up my mind which way to start. But bearing in mind, I think we'll work on the cottage aesthetic today, and there will be bees. Bees will be part of this painting. So let us start with, I'm going to start with just a little bit of spatter, because that will free me up. You know, the blank page syndrome. You can't be doing with that. So I have a toothbrush here, and I have sprayed it with lilac. And now I'm going to drop in some water. And then I'm going to take a long-haired brush, and I'm going to pick up some more lilac and blue mixed together. And I'm going to attempt to make it do lines. I think I need a bigger one. Let's try with a fairly big brush. That didn't work. So, no. Ah, that's it. I knew there was a way of doing this. I'd forgotten. Right. That gives us some movement. And then we can come in with a fairly big brush and try to construct a few heads. Of lavender. Make each one slightly different. Make the ones in the distance a little bit bluer, and the ones in the foreground a little bit redder, a little bit more purple. And just dab the brush like that, picking up and joining the dots that we just spattered. Remembering from what we drew that they get more pointed as they go towards the top. A little bit thinner because the flowers are smaller at the top. Maybe make some of them overlap. And make some of them have make them at a different angle, different lengths. Just follow the paint where it's landed. Leave some space so that there's some air for it to breathe. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm making this up as I go along. I didn't really have this in mind, but then when I saw that plain piece of paper, I just realized I needed to break that inhibition. Now you could, and maybe we should, I'm not quite sure yet. Let's see, perhaps we should put some green in at this point. We can always build on this later. So identify the angle of your lavender, and then you just grow the stems out. Having done that, then you realize maybe we should have had a few more going off in that direction, perhaps. So maybe I'll put one here. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry and come back and then see where that's landed up. I have left plenty of space up here for my bees. You could put bees or butterflies or both. Not sure what we're going to do yet, but that's a good start. Next step will be to intensify some of that, decide whether or not we're going to add any other medium, like if we're going to add any ink or any watercolour pencil, or whether we're going to leave it just as a watercolour. We'll see, we'll decide that at the next step. I'm rather thinking that this might stay as just watercolour, but it'll obviously need leaves. Need some leaves. It will need strengthening because when it dries it will be much lighter in colour. So I'm going to make a cup of hazelnut Canadian coffee for the family now, so I'll be back in a tick. Don't go away. Okay, so I've let this dry now and it's time to go ahead and do the next stage, and you have a choice. At this point we can either go into the flowers and just put some more of the darker colours in, dropping different shades. So first of all I'm going to drop in some water, or you could do the stems first, and they need a little bit of emphasis. So I'm going to go for the former rather than the latter. So we're, oops, that's green. I'm talking about one thing and doing something else. Okay, so a little bit stronger colour because we're just going to emphasise the purpley kind of shade of the lavender here. Don't want it to go too blue, do we? So we'll just drop in a few spots into the water that we've already put on the flowers and let that do its thing. And if you can hear the printer in the background chuntering away, that's because we're just printing out a photo that we just took, or Tamsin just took, of a honeybee in the, actually it's on the, what's it called, that plant?
Ceanothus.
Ceanothus, yes, on the ceanothus, but it's right next door to the lavender. And it's absolutely covered with pollen. And so are the bees. They've got these huge pollen sacs on their legs. Oh, here comes the military. We're at war again. They've been doing exercises over the house this afternoon. In the depths of the Breton countryside, you're surrounded by warships and God knows what. Anyway, let's hope the balloon hasn't gone up. Right, back to where we were at. What was I saying? Honeybees. Honeybees are going to be moving in up here soon. So now we're going to go back to the leaves and we're going to do some slightly greyed down green. So that's Quinacridone Gold and Cobalt Blue with a tiny bit of violet in it, which is going to hopefully give us a slightly muted bluish green, grey green, which is what the lavender has, really. And I discovered yesterday that the leaves tend to grow in pairs, opposite one another, at the distance down near the base of the plant, so away from the flower, so something like that. Don't want to go too bonkers because it's not really the leaves that we're that interested in, it's more the flowers. And if you feel that you want to do a little bit more spatter and randomness, you can always add a bit more here. Now, there are hoverflies on the, what's it called again?
Ceanothus.
Ceanothus. I always want to call it Chimachyparus. You know Chimachyparus?
No, but that's a fun.
Do you remember Gardener's Question Time on Radio 4? They were always talking about Chimachyparus.
Probably because they like the name.
I know, who wouldn't? Okay, so then Is the photo of the bee ready?
Yeah, you've got two of them.
Ew,
Still
they're
wet.
wet. Okay, so I hope that's working. Oh yes, it is. A photo of a honeybee with pollen sac, collecting the pollen on its leg. And they're completely different. Well, not completely different, but significantly different from honeybees, aren't they? Bumblebees, because they're slimmer. They're shinier at the back here. They're hairy here, but flat here. They haven't got a big fur coat on like the bumblebee. So I'm going to pop a couple of those in. And if you want to pick up some video of this scene, you can head on over to our other channel, From the Garden, which is where we're putting all the video that Tamsin's taking, all the bits and pieces about what goes on in the garden and eventually makes its way into our videos here. So, oh look, there's another one. Using up a lot of green ink here, young lady. Very nice. Okay. Excellent. Right. Good. You're allowed to speak, you know.
There are no more that were in focus. So
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so portrait of a honeybee who is sitting right outside the door at the moment, but I've brought him inside courtesy of the printer. So we're going to put one here. And I always start with the head when I'm doing something like this. And he's got, we're going to have to simplify him because we're not doing anything, we're not doing nature study here. So the wings are fairly small actually on these, I think. And they're much slimmer, a bit different. So then the sting is there, and the leg here. And the back leg has this pollen sac, which is, apparently they collect the pollen from the flower using their front legs, and then they wipe the pollen off onto their back leg, where they then store it before they take it back to the hive. So there we are, there's one. And let's put another one up here. The eyes are very obvious on these as well. Another one coming in up there. So to paint this, much less definition. It's a much softer yellow. So nothing at all like the yellow on the bumblebee. So I think if we just generally kind of go like that. And then if we come in with the black, what is bright yellow, though, is the pollen sac, which is here. So then I need my... Now, is it really black? It's more brown, actually. So I'm going to use Van Dyke Brown for this, which is a nice dark brown, almost black. And we're going to just pop in a head. And then he's got bands of grey, brown. his wings, of course, just very lightly. We'll resist the urge to use iridescent medium today. Just put those in like that. There we are. We'll let that dry, and then we will rub out the lines. And I might put another one down here and up there, but I'll decide about that in a second. Let that dry and I'll be back. So there's the final painting. Hope you enjoyed that. Nice, simple, but quite effective demonstration of how to get the idea of lavender onto paper with some bees, honeybees in this particular case. So look forward to seeing you again here tomorrow. Have a lovely afternoon. Enjoy trying out this painting, and I'll see you again soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications, and don't forget to take a look at From the Garden over on our other channel and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. That would be wonderful. So see you on Facebook too. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.